Hey, this is Greg McAfee, and welcome to the Greg McAfee Show. Now let's get started. Hey, welcome back to the Greg McAfee Show, where we discuss steps to successful entrepreneurship, how to take your business to new heights, and ultimately follow your dreams. Today we're going to be discussing part 3 of building strong teams. And again, I have my son, Travis McAfee, with us to help share in this. And we've got some good content for part 3. And let's get started. Okay, Travis, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Part 3. Mm-hmm. We got some pretty good stuff to talk about today. And part 1, part 2, we talked, a lot about team building, just how important it is. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, business owners, they just don't realize the importance of team building as far as the success of their company. And we hire people too fast. We get them in seats, whether they're inside or trucks, and we say go.
Right. Yeah, so just to kind of recap the last couple episodes, we talked about kind of the overall structure of your existing team and trying to really solidify culture therein. And then, last week we talked a lot about hiring, pros and cons to different ways of interviewing and, kind of what you should be looking for and ultimately being prepared to pass that culture on to them. So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, today we're going to focus on an African saying goes like this: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this applies to what we're going to talk about today because, if we avoid surrounding ourselves with yes people, we're going to be a lot better off. Because if you're just looking for a yes, if you're sitting at that board table or that conference table and you're talking a lot as the business owner and you're looking for everyone to go, yay, go Greg, mm-hmm. You're in it for the wrong reason and you're not going to be as successful.
That's fair. And there was a couple instances when I first kind of came on board and we were in those leadership team meetings at the oval table. I was going to say round table, but the oval table. I found myself in disagreement with a few members of our team and kind of feeling like guilty about that. And then later on, having conversations with some of those people I was disagreeing with, and they were like, hey, look, if both of us agree on everything, then one of us isn't needed.
Right.
And, so having that diversity of opinion is really important, especially in that leadership team, the decision-making team, and brainstorming team, whatever the case may be, you have to have that diversity of opinion, diversity of thought. And that's this proverb you talked about. That's like, going together is how you get far, because not everybody's going to be aware of the same things. We all have blind spots, right? And so we have to have people with the ability to point that out for us and help us go further. You think about I don't know when this proverb was written, but I would imagine it's in like hunter-gatherer societies, and you imagine a guy going out alone. It's dangerous out there. And so you got to have somebody who is able to have your back.
And you can go fast alone.
Yeah, but
no one's got your back alone.
Yeah, something could happen along the way, and you don't get as far as you would have if you had a few more people you could trust.
Sure.
So I do love that proverb, and if everybody agrees, if you have yes people, you may as well be going alone.
Right. We have to surround ourselves with truthful people who are okay with having a difference with us. I don't care if you're a manager or a business owner, any leadership position, you've got to be okay with someone disagreeing with you. If you're not, drop the ego. because you're not always right. A leader is not always right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a leader should be hanging around with smart people and educating themselves and reading a lot and setting the vision and all those good things. But there's been many decisions that I have made that someone challenged me on in a good way. You got to be careful how you challenge a leader. You don't want to make them look too stupid in front of everybody.
Sure, yeah.
But you've got to be okay with challenging them.
Yeah.
What if or why would we do that? And what happens if this happens when we do that? And I thought about it on some of the decisions that I made, and I was wrong. And it was not a good idea. It wasn't the best idea for the company. It wasn't going to benefit everybody. Matter of fact, there's no benefit to your team if you surround yourself with yes people. There's no benefit at all. So what we're going to talk about today is a couple things. There's about 7 of them. Well, actually 8 if we say avoid surrounding yourself with yes people. But the next one is get to know your people. In order to have a strong team, your team has a wide variety of backgrounds and talents, and you have to get to know your team.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that's so important?
Well, there's a lot of obvious reasons, but something that we touched upon in episode 1 was the that widget formula.
Yeah.
It's for those of you that haven't caught up on all the episodes that we've been doing this, go back and watch episode 1. Towards the end, we talk about widget, and the short version is it's just the process of work. You have W stands for wonder, so it's just brainstorming. Invention is, okay, let's take those ideas and put it into something real. Let's make a plan. And then D is discernment, so making sure those ideas are good, those plans are good, and they're going to work. And then G is galvanizing, getting everybody on board. E is enabling, kind of getting the plane off the ground, so to speak. And then T is tenacity, seeing it through to the end. So widget is the process of work. And, getting to know your team, personality-wise, work style-wise, making sure that all of those processes of work, you have somebody on your team who's capable of fulfilling that. Because when you have a yes team, there's no D, there's no discernment. So you just go, oh, hey, I got some ideas. Okay, cool, let's make a plan. All right, let's get everybody on board, and then get it off the ground. You never decided if it was a good idea or not.
Right.
You never, like you said, you didn't have that bumper. And so, knowing the people on your team, knowing who you can go to say, hey, here's what we're thinking, but I don't do your job every day. So tell me, if I make this decision, if we make this plan, if we go forward with this, how is that going to affect you and other members of your department? And just like having trusted people that you can ask to give you a real, honest, but also fair opinion, because there's people out there that are just kind of averse to change, right? That you probably don't want to ask those people. You want to ask the people that are going to be honest with you, but are also open to change. That openness is really important when you're trying to get discernment out of people, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the wide variety of backgrounds and talents is very important, because some of your team. Now, by the way, where did that widget come from?
There is a group out in California. It's called the Table Group. You can go to thetablegroup.com and learn more about it. They wrote a book. It's called The Working Genius, and it's basically everybody has a genius, like a working style, like a strength. Think of it like a strength. And so your genius is where you thrive, where you gain energy from your work. And where, like, everyone has a genius somewhere in that process. The WIDGET. Somebody has a genius in that area. There are 2 areas usually, and you just got to make sure that the right people are doing the right jobs. But outside of that work process, I like what you said about kind of looking at your team's past experiences and how it relates to the job now. I've got a really tangible example just this week. We actually have a customer who has someone in their family with a disability, and they're having to kind of redo the home, right? And it's the way that they have to do this to make it more accessible for that person with a disability. it's going to affect their HVAC system, so we're going to have to reroute some things. Well, I have a team member who's a supervisor who actually used to work in like medical equipment.
Yeah.
And so he's very familiar with the stuff that they're going to be installing. And so I'm like, let's send him. Let's send him out there. We'll figure out what we need to do to make all this work, because he knows the HVAC world and he knows the medical equipment world. It's perfect. So knowing your team's past experiences, you can better set up people for success, not only on your team, but also your customer base.
Yeah. Well, and the customer, if you would not have known the team, and you didn't know that he was in medical field, I mean, that's a wow for the customer, that he knows about what they're going to have to do for their family member. So getting to know your team is extremely important. And you and Lucy actually stopped by last night, and we were watching the Iowa Hawkeye game, the women's basketball. And there's two players that have been playing together for about 3 years, Caitlin Clark and Monica Casino. You can tell by watching them that they don't have to talk to each other. One's a center, one's a guard, and they don't have to talk to each other. They just need to look at each other, and they know what they're going to do. Okay, so that comes from working together, playing together as a team for 3 years. And they're strong, and they're a duo. They're a strong duo in women's basketball right now, and that's why they're probably going to, they're going to the championship. And and think about this in your business. You should know your team. I don't care if they've been there 6 months or 6 years or 10 years or 20 years. You should know your team. You should know their strengths, like I said before, their weaknesses, their opportunities, and their threats, and they should know those 4 too. It makes for a stronger team, and you should review that often with the team. It's called SWOT analysis, and we used to do them more often. We used to do them in a company meeting. And we should still do that, but you should do a personal SWOT analysis. We also have to hope for the best, but plan for problems. Okay, and I do that by saying we got to have a plan B. I always like having a plan B, and because I ask the question, if this happens, and I even do that from my leadership team and my succession plan, from what happens if Greg gets thrown under the bus. Okay, so what happens to this if Greg gets thrown under the bus? What happens to this if Greg gets thrown under the bus? Where does that go from here after Greg's under the bus? Okay, so that's wise as a business owner. Okay, that is extremely wise, and you need to be thinking that way. But you also need to be thinking that way as you grow your business and hope for the best, but plan. Planning is important for problems. What if this happens? What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, just a way to sum it up is just contingency plans. I mean, that's huge. It's you always strive for best case scenario, but having a contingency plan in place. Okay, like for different scenarios, it's like, okay, we're approaching this, and there's a couple variables here. They could go one of 3 ways. Okay, we've got a plan for if it goes this way, and this way. And then we have contingency plans for that. So you always have to be, think of it like playing chess. You always have to be a couple steps ahead of your opponent. And a problem is your opponent as a business owner. Different problems pop up every day. Sometimes the same problem pops up in different ways because, every day is a new day, right? And so in our world in HVAC, we do installations every single day. We do furnace checkups every single day. We have service calls almost every day. Sometimes the weather doesn't exactly permit for things to go bad, which is good for the customer, not so great for the HVAC owner. But at any rate, we do the same thing every day, but we run into the same problem in different ways because each system's a little bit different. But you have a contingency plan in place for how to attack those problems, and it's huge. It's huge. It's wise. It's wise to have multiple plans.
It is. It's not a secret. Don't keep it to yourself. Share. And speaking of sharing, I've said this often, informed people make better decisions. Share your vision often. Share your culture often. tell people about your way. We've talked about this card right here, which is the McAfee way. Toyota has their way. Apple has their way. Most companies have their way. If you don't think you have your way, ask your employees and they'll tell you your way. Okay. But you should tell them often. How many times do you have to tell somebody something?
One more time.
One more time. And, but then as far as telling them the way, ask them to explain it to you so they understand it. And ask them to explain your vision. They should know your vision and where you're going. Where are you going with this? They're on board of this train, and they want to know where we're going on the train. They don't want to just enjoy the ride every day. They want to know where we're going to go. How are we going to get there? And but in the same way with the culture, ask them to explain it and share what your culture is and share what the way is, and then ask them if they could improve on it at all. Now sometimes you don't need an answer right now. I might say, I want you to go away for a couple of days over the weekend, and I want you to think about what we talked about today, and then come back. We're going to come back Monday or Tuesday, and I want you to tell me how we can improve the way.
Yeah.
Because I want them to think about it. And when you start thinking about, and along with that, ensure that your training, whether it's sharing the vision or sharing your culture or telling them about the way we do business, ensure your training's meaningful to them. They I don't want to be part of anything where I don't understand it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we talked about having plans and even contingency plans for those contingency plans. It sounds rigid, right? You want things to be meaningful. You want things to flow. You want it to come natural. You want it to be easy to understand, easy to digest. But I think back to high school football. It's not as popular of an offense nowadays, but we ran the triple option from the wishbone formation, and we did the same steps every single day. Why? Muscle memory.
Yeah.
So it seemed rote. It seemed boring. It seemed rigid. However, if we got our steps perfect, we were going to win the game.
Right.
If everybody did what they were supposed to do, and we didn't have to think. You hear the play, you know what your steps are going to be. And if you do your steps right and your offensive line does their job, you're going to get some yardage. And guess what? You don't have to get 50 yards on each play when you're running the triple option. You just got to get 3 to 5. Yeah. Over and over and over, wear down the defense, you're going to win the game. And we did. We won a lot of games. And so, in the same way with your company, you want some of these plans in place. You want it to become muscle memory for your team. That's really important. So some of those day-to-day things, that day-to-day training, it might not feel invigorating. It might feel boring. But you need to communicate to your team that we are building muscle memory so that when you're in the field, you don't get stuck.
Right.
And when you're on the phone with a customer that's being difficult, you don't get stuck because you've got the muscle memory in place. So not every aspect of training is going to be exciting, but it can still be meaningful because you remind them that we're doing it this way because when you're in the field, it's going to flow. You're going to win.
That's why we believe in role playing. Mm-hmm. And role playing, it's hard. It sucks. People hate to be in that hot seat. But it's role playing for muscle memory because I want them to know what to say when they get in a customer's house and they're asked that exact question or they're told something that they didn't understand. And if they can learn in the role playing in front of 3 or 4 coworkers, it's much easier to learn here than it is out there and look like you don't know. Okay, I don't want to say look stupid, but you will look stupid, and it's much easier to look stupid in here.
Yeah, it is, and it's that, it's really, I mean, it's one of the best. As much as people don't like it, it really is one of the best team building exercises because you're going to fumble through it, and your coworkers are going to laugh with you, not at you. They're going to laugh with you, and you learn and you grow and you critique each other. And it's hard, but it's one of the best team building exercises you can do in the service industry. There's a lot of benefits to it because if someone does really well, the people that are observing are going to be like, oh, wow, that was really good. I'm going to use that. It's train. So the feedback from the people observing, like they're getting feedback from the person doing it. They're like, oh, that didn't work. That really didn't work. I'm not going to do that. Or wow, I'm going to use that one. That's great. And then vice versa, the person up there fumbling through it is going to get some advice and critiques from the people observing. And then we switch, and it's just, it's a good, tough exercise for muscle memory.
And it's basically called practice. When you're practicing the football plays, it's boring. But it's called practice. We want you to get good at it here, so you're better at it there in a customer's home. Okay, and since we're residential, 95% of what we do is in a home. That's our job site. Something else is get and keep others involved. Challenge them and mentor them. Again, it's a pretty boring place to work if you don't get other people involved. Find out, knowing your everything we've talked about today, knowing your team, not going alone, planning Plan B, sharing, and now it's getting others involved and not going or challenging them and mentoring them. How do you think we do that here, or what could someone else learn from what we do?
Yeah, so I'll say it starts with how you do your sales department. I'll let you share a little bit about your process with them, but I've observed that, and I try to implement it with my supervisors. And then I'm getting my supervisors in the mindset of, okay, great, see what we're doing in here. It's going to look a little different for you in the field, but I want you, when you do ride-alongs, when you go out to a job, I want you to kind of do that same thing. Socratic learning, right? Ask a lot of questions, and observe how they respond. And then if they're responding incorrectly, redirect. It's instead of asking very closed-ended questions, ask very open-ended questions. What made you run it that way? Okay, did you happen to notice that flue pipe over there? How do you plan to navigate that? You've already got this gas line set here. How do you plan to navigate that flue? Just asking very open-ended questions. And then if it's the right answer, give them affirmations. Say, awesome, good job. Yeah. That's actually better than how I would do it, or whatever you want to say.
Right.
Or say, do you think that's going to work? Continue to ask questions. And, so it's that Socratic learning method is really important. And I did observe that in kind of how you handle your sales team. You meet with them every day. You want to kind of go through with what you do with them?
Yeah. I play the role of sales manager because of choice. I love sales. It's the last thing I really touch here, other than managing my leadership team and setting the vision and dabbling in advertised branding and marketing. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the last thing I touch here. But anyway, we meet every single day together. First of all, we do a devotional together. We've been going through the Tony Dungy book devotional. We've done it for probably 3 or 4 years. Same book. It never gets old. It's one day, 365 devotions.
And both of you're actually everybody on your sales team right now was an athlete at one point, so they get it. They're all. It's very sports and life related. Yeah.
And so it has a lot to do, but we discuss each...
Knowing your team, right?
Knowing your team.
Yeah.
And we discuss each devotion, how it can be applied in life, whether it's personal life or business life. If you don't have your personal life, if you or your team does not have your personal life in order, you're going to suffer at work. And you're going to suffer, especially in sales. You're going to suffer. So we discuss that devotional, that how's it doing with your personal life and in your work. And then we, maybe once a week or so, we'll listen to 30 minutes of either a podcast or a sales closing class. And the reason I say that, if you went back and you've heard any of my sales classes, we close right around 90% closing ratio, which is extremely high and very rare, but it's on purpose, and we have a system and we know what we're doing. But we don't hire salespeople, we hire closers. Our company is such a strong brand, and our service techs do most of the educating the customer, that all the comfort advisor / salesperson has to do is go out and close. There's no high pressure. You'll never read a Google review that says I felt pressured to buy. It's asking questions and doing that, and we practice those questions. It's role playing. It's asking those questions. If a customer asks you this, how are you going to answer that? Mm-hmm. And we go over and over and over again. And then I say throughout the day, if you need me, text me or call me. And if you get into a situation where you need me to close it for you, call me, because I want to help close it. So it's a relationship. It's building relationships. It's knowing your team and knowing what drives them. Both the comfort advisors we have right now are extremely competitive and completely involved in the sale and the customer.
Not just that, but speaking of relationships, it's not uncommon for our sales team, comfort advisors, to actually show up at an install,
right?
And actually follow through with the customer. So we do inspections, right, with the different municipalities, but we don't just stop there. We do our own inspection before the municipality inspects, because we're not just looking for code things. We're looking for that, but also aesthetically. There is a McAfee aesthetic to an install. We talked about that on this podcast before, but we do our own inspection in that. And if anything's not meeting the expectation, the salesperson is following up with that customer saying, hey, look, this isn't up to par for us. We'd like to come back out and make some adjustments. And so the sales person, comfort advisor, is seeing it through from first point of contact with the service tech, through the sale, the install, and the quality inspection, and anything that takes place after that quality inspection. So it is a very relational position, and that's on purpose.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's on purpose because it's trained. Mm-hmm. Someone doesn't just come in here and know, oh, I need to go on the install. I need to take care of the team, by taking them lunch or Gatorades or a candy bar or their favorite candy bar. It doesn't come natural. So that's taught, that's talked about, that's discussed in our morning meetings, why that's important, and when's the last time you did it, and tell me how they reacted when you did it, and all those types of things. And we've learned from past salespeople that didn't necessarily do it right. You don't just take the installation crew lunch when they have a sucky job you sold.
Right, yeah.
You're not trying to butter them up.
Right.
You're doing it for appreciation. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, they could have an easy job they're going to get done at 2:00. And it's just, I'm glad you brought that up. So this isn't something, we don't bring them lunch every day.
Right.
But, it's a great point. You don't want to just do it when you feel bad you gave them a tough job. You want to do it saying, hey, guys, way to really knock this one out of the park. It was straightforward, but you still took it as serious as the one that wasn't straightforward. And thank you. So that's right on the money. So good point.
Right. The next one is very important in team building, is getting their buy-in as a leader. So I never try to implement something new without getting certain people's buy-in first. So I'll bring them in individually and say, hey, hey Travis, I want to show you my idea. I'm going to show you how it's going to work. I'm going to show you the benefit to you, the team, the customer, and I'm going to get your buy-in because you're going to love it. I know if I know you, I'm going to use some key words that you're going to love it. It's just like when we went 8 to 8, same great rate. and our service team now had to work second shift, basically. Not everybody likes second shift. I mean, that means you're out later than normal, even later than late, right? So what did I do? I had to get their buy-in. So the first thing I did was I got a buy-in from the service manager, the lead service, okay? I got that buy-in. They're in. And they were part of this. And then the second thing I did was I shared, honestly, transparently shared pros and cons. And the pros outlisted the cons, okay? Now you can take your children to breakfast in the morning before school. You can take them to school. Now you can go get a haircut. You can go to the dentist. You can go to the doctor. You know exactly what day you don't have to be here till noon. Now you can mow your yard early if you want. You don't have to worry about mowing it late. And I went over, I had about 10 or 12 things, and then I had 3 or 4 cons. And by the time it was done, in my meeting, they were all sold. Now, did they love it forever? No, but they were all sold. I did my job.
Yeah.
So you got to get their buy-in. It's very important. You don't just make people do things new or just because it's your idea and you think it's wonderful without getting the buy-in.
Yeah, I actually have another tangible example of that recently. Getting our team on board for some software updates. Using the way we share files, the way we communicate with one another, so like if a CSR needs manager approval or something like that, you know how it is. And we're from a different generation, so we like emails was the greatest thing when you first started.
Sure.
Not first started, but a few years into your business, email was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But nowadays, for people my age, it's a little outdated. And so getting people on board to change up the way we communicated and shared files and information was tough. But I got them to buy in, and I'm like, hey, what's the most frustrating part about our existing process? Well, getting answers too slow. And I'm like, yeah, that's frustrating for me too, because I want to get you answers fast. The last thing I want to do is hold you up. I said, why don't we just give this new one a try? And I'm willing to bet that you're going to get the results you want a lot faster, and everybody's going to be happy. And so we did, and it's worked great. We've established different lines of communication, and they've been very effective for both myself and all of our supervisors when it comes to communicating back to our customer service team and getting customers taken care of. We've dramatically increased our efficiency in this way. So even though we've talked about moving cheese before. There's a book called Who Moved My Cheese? But anyway, we definitely got people out of their comfort zone, which is what it means, move my cheese. And so we got people out of their comfort zone for a little bit, but then they realized, okay, I can get behind this because at the end of the day, it's working, and we're accomplishing our goals. And we're the majority of the team is happy, and so like it's worked. We had some pushback at first, but now we have buy-in because we've seen the results, and so there's finesse there, right? There's finesse. Like you with your service guys, you had to list the pros and cons. I didn't really have pros and cons. I just had, hey, here's our biggest hurdle, and we can make this hurdle if we just get on board, and let's try it for a week. And it worked. And it was just, off to the races from there. So yeah, buy-in is huge, and there's different strategies to get that buy-in. Going back to widget, that galvanizer is huge. If you don't have a galvanizer on your team that can take the plan that's already been discerned, that like this is a good plan, it's never going to get off the ground if you don't get people to see that vision. Back to our muscle memory thing. There's little things that we do that seem tedious, that seem boring at times, but that galvanizer has the ability to keep people motivated. And so if you don't have a galvanizer on your team, or if you have a galvanizer on your team, but he's not in a leadership, or he or she is not in a leadership role, you should probably fix that. Use that gift and better your team and keep people motivated, and get that buy-in for even the tedious things. It's huge.
Yeah, that's good stuff. A few more things here we want to talk about, and one of them is one thing I learned in Marine Corps is be approachable. As a leader, you cannot build a strong team without being approachable. Whether you want to call it your open door policy or whatever you want to call it, but you need to be approachable. Look out for others' welfare and sense your team's attitude. And look out for others' welfare is basically putting others before you many times. Still today, we use the term, I won't sell this if I won't do it myself. And I had to ingrain that in our sales team because they've never installed. But if you don't want to crawl down in that wet crawl space and belly crawl 40 feet to get to the furnace, then we'll pass. I'm sorry, other companies will do the job. There's plenty of companies out there that will do the job. So I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about what we do best at McAfee and what we focus on and what our team specializes in. And that's part of our success, is not selling anything that we don't specialize in. And sensing your team's attitude is being alert and detecting things. You've got, as a leader, you've got to be looking around and you've got to read people's faces. That's one thing I just did good because I'm just observant to a change. She's looked like this at her desk for many weeks, and now all of a sudden, what we say, she's weaned on a pickle. Why she weaned on a pickle for the last 2 days? Everybody can be weaned on a pickle one day, but 2-3 days, too much. Time out. What's going on? Okay, and we bring them in. What's going on? And we find out it's something in their personal life. Most of the time, this is what happened, and we work around. We work with them. We work around it, and something I learned years ago is never say, don't bring your problems to work. That's not realistic. Everybody's human. Everybody has problems, and they have to bring them to work. Because wherever you go, there you are, and that's your problem, okay? So, but helping someone fix the problem, work through the problem, is what a good leader and a good team does. And there's nothing better for me to say, if you're having the problem, for me to say, I've been through the same thing. The worst thing I can say is if I've never been through the same thing, I understand, because I don't understand. So that's the worst thing you can say.
Yeah.
But if you have been through the same thing, you can say, here's how I handled it, here's how I came out of it, and it helps the whole team. And then you must be alert as well to detect rumors. See, rumors happen in a company. If there's 2 people in a company, you'll have a rumor.
Yep.
Okay? It was a perfect place until I hired the first person. A church is a perfect place until the first person walked through the door. Okay? So if you have 2 people, you're going to have a rumor. And you need to know, be alert to it, detect it, nip it, and don't let it spread.
Yeah, so we do a couple of different types of classes here at McAfee. We've been fortunate to do so. But in one of those classes, we learned kind of how to define gossip. So gossip is if you are neither a part of the problem or the solution, and you're still participating in the conversation, you're participating in you are gossiping, right? So that means two service techs talking about an installer.
Yeah.
They are gossiping because they are neither part of the problem or the solution.
Right.
However, an installer coming to the supervisor or me, the field manager, and saying, "Hey, look, one of my teammates this is happening, and we need to help them out," or this can't happen. We got to do something about it. Whatever the case may be. That's not gossip, because at least one person in that well, actually both of them, that technician is a part of the problem. They got to work with this guy, and the supervisor or manager they're part of the solution. And so that is not gossip. So you got to know the difference. And, we've got a couple signals here to notify, like, hey, are you part of the problem? No. Are you part of the solution? Okay, cool. So let's drop it.
Yeah.
And so like we've got little things to kind of kindly remind people that, and are you going to catch it all the time as a manager, as a supervisor, as an owner of a company? Nope. Gossip's still going to happen. We are human, and some humans are particularly inclined to that habit. However, anytime you see it, you got to nip it.
Yeah. You got to be looking for it. If you're not looking for it, you won't see it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with seeing someone down. If you're not looking for it, you won't see it. Many times I've asked people, I said, did you notice so-and-so looked a little down? No, I didn't notice that. Well, you weren't looking for it. I'm looking for it. Same way with, did you notice that install that line set wasn't perfectly straight? No, I didn't. Well, you weren't looking for it. I'm looking for it. And you got to be looking for it. As a leader, you've got to look for things. You got to be observant, and you've got to be alert. Lastly, keep others informed. Very important. Inform people, make decisions. We've already talked about that. But keep others informed. Explain the why behind the what. Not just because I said to do it, but explain the why. Can you run with that a little bit?
Yeah. I'll admit, this is actually a weakness of mine. Sometimes I'm playing the game like those two ladies you were talking about from Iowa, as if we just know, I assume sometimes way too much that my supervisors already know what I'm thinking. And I can't do that yet. We've only been working together for a year. Those two girls have been playing together for 3 years. And frankly, let's be honest, in sports, you spend a lot more time together than you do in work life, right? So, right. I mean, for them to be together 3 years.
More than just a game. You're in practice every day.
Exactly. And so for those girls having 3 years of cohesion, it probably takes 6 years to get to that level in the workplace. It really does. And me and my supervisors and I, have only been working together for about a year. And so assuming that they know what I'm thinking, I'm wrong. They don't. I still have to say it.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm working on.
Now, when it does happen, then it's a bonus.
Exactly.
Every once in a while,
we're on the same page.
Perfect page. But when it doesn't happen, you got to be ready to say something.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I can tell you, I'll give you some tangible examples. I went on vacation recently, got to see the Red Sox play spring baseball. It was great. Yeah. Beautiful weather down there in Fort Myers, Florida. But at any rate, while I was gone, I gave very broad instructions on how I wanted some of our scheduling to be handled. And I thought that they would know to take into consideration hours when doing that. Well, I didn't say it. So why would I expect them to know it? We're not at that level yet, right? And they don't look at the hours the way that I do.
Right.
They have like secondhand access to hours, but I have the first hand, right? And some of our other managers here and on the leadership, we all have firsthand access to everybody's hours and time cards, whereas my supervisors have secondhand. And so I just assumed, and you know what assuming does,
right.
But I just assumed that they would take hours into consideration. I did not communicate that, hey, look, this is what I want, but if so-and-so has way less hours, then we need to bump them up to the front, and so what I thought they would know, they didn't, because I didn't communicate it, and so it's huge. You have to be able to keep them informed, give them the why, like, hey, look, yes, we want this person on these types of jobs. However, we also want this person over here to be able to feed their family, right. and pay their rent, so we have to take all those things into consideration. And, it's something that I'm for sure working on is communicating my thoughts. Sometimes I'll think out loud, but like I need to actually directly look at them and say, hey, this is something that I want you to be responsible for while I'm gone, or, whatever the case may be. So,
yeah, very good. Very good illustration. just keeping people informed, and it's so easy to forget.
It is.
And I'm guilty of. I may have told you, but I forgot to tell Carrie.
Yep.
And I thought I told Carrie too, and then Carrie's uninformed.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I told her. Didn't I tell you? No, you didn't tell me. So keep people informed. You'll build stronger teams. You can't go fast alone. You'll go much farther together. And this applies to all of us. We're all building teams. We're all in it together. We're all trying to make a difference. We're all trying to be number one. We're all trying to win. All those types of things. So, Travis, this was part 3. I just want to say thanks for joining me on this. It's been a pleasure working with you.
It's been fun.
Anything else you want to add before we close up?
I don't think so. I think it's been a good series, and maybe we'll do another one sometime soon.
Sounds good. Cool. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Before we wrap up, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please leave us some notes. Please leave us some questions, some notes, anything you'd like to ask or talk about. You can also support this podcast by rating and reviewing on iTunes or your preferred listening platform. Keep listening because we'll keep challenging you. We'll keep helping you grow your business. And of course, we're going to help you sleep better at night when you do those things. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Greg McAfee Show. No spaces, no underscores. Be sure to tune in next week when I'm going to talk about how to become number one in your market. And I'm going to use the lion as a reference for that. So tune in next week. Be sure to keep listening. Thanks for listening. And as always, carry on. God bless and have a great day.